Miss Hart, you are 15 minutes late, Mrs. Carmen said, disappointed look on her face as you rush into the kitchen with your uniform on. She would told you to meet her here before starting cleaning the bedrooms to tell you something. I apologize, Mrs. Carmen. One of my teacher had to talk to me after the class. You mumble, your fingers intertwined with each other nervously. You hated that you had to lie to her, but if she found out the real reason why you was late, you wouldn't be surprised if you would get fired on the spot. I want you to help serve drinks during dinner tonight at 7 p.m. Make sure the bedrooms are cleaned as well before your shift ends as always, she said as she inspected the maids and chefs who were preparing dinner. You felt nauseous at the thought alone, but all you could do was agree to Mrs. Carmen's order. You had a couple of hours left before dinner, so you decided to clean Jungkook's room first, since you was positive he wasn't home. The entire time you was cleaning his room, that seemed almost as dark as his soul. You felt the nerves rush into your skin. Why would he think you are a spy? What was he doing out there for it to be so bad for him to get caught? Maybe he just didn't want his parents to know. Relief fills your body when you finish the room and when you check the time that reads 6:45. Grabbing all of your supplies, you rush down the stairs, putting everything back into the cleaning closet before walking into the kitchen that had been swarmed with maids rushing back and forth trying to finalize dinner. All you are going to do is bring out the drinks. It shouldn't be too difficult. Don't drop anything. Mrs. Carmen grumbles out as she runs around the entire kitchen making sure everything was perfect. Yes, ma'am, you said, stumbling back a little when a maid shoved a tray with an expensive looking bottle of wine into your hand and a pitcher of lemon water. You steady your hands, taking in a deep breath as you look over at Mrs. Carmen, confused. Go on, what are you doing staring at me? Mrs. Carmen shoos you away, and you quickly nod your head, walking as steady as you could towards the door that led to the dining hall. You feel the nerves rack up in your body when you open the door, revealing a large, nicely lit dining room with a grand table in the center. A gorgeous woman with long brown hair sat next to a man who had been smiling at something she had said. That must be Mr. and Mrs. John. Jungwoo sat one seat across from them listening to his mother. Jungkook was nowhere in sight, not surprising. You could see the soft gaze of Mrs. John's eyes resembling Jungwoo's, although they were different in color. He had the same thick hair as Mr. John. You figured the same height too. It was even more obvious that the resemblance of Jungkook's brooding eyes to his father's and though dark hair, of course. You wonder how Mr. and Mrs. John met, considering her timid appearance compared to Mr. John's intimidating one. As you reached the table, you could feel Jungwoo's eyes on you, and for some reason, you looked back over at him, instantly falling into his dazzling light brown eyes that seemed like a calm ocean. You felt euphoric every time you looked at his soft yet deep eyes. He gave you a small smile, and for once you smiled back before starting to pour the drinks into the glasses. Jungwoo, where is your brother? How many times is he going to miss dinner? Mrs. Jones said, very laced in her soft voice. I'm not sure. It's not like he talks to us anyways. Jungkook shrugged, picking at the food on his plate. I just wish he would tell me what's wrong. I have been trying to talk to him for years, but he shuts me out every time. Mrs. John frowns. You could see the sadness filled in her eyes. It was the kind of sadness you would only see in a mother, the kind where her children's pain affected her more than any pain ever could in the world. The same one your own mother had for you before your father's death. You try ignore the rush of pain that felt like needles in your heart. The thought of your parents always just brought you sadness. You wanted them back. You just wanted it to be normal. The normal where you was just an innocent little girl crying over your ice cream. Melting the normal where you went on walk with your mom and dad during hot summers around the neighborhood. You just didn't understand it. You didn't understand how Jungkook just shut his family out. They were right in front of his face, close enough to hug, to talk to make memories with, yet he only closed himself off. Time is cruel and no one lasts forever. Did he not realize how it was affecting his parents? His own brother? Their voices get quieter as you walked away with the now half empty drink bottles, your mind swirling with questions that are none of your business to be thinking about in the first place. The rest of the dinner, all you had done was refill everyone's drink when they were gotten low. You nearly fell asleep at one point until Mrs. Carmen snapped her finger in front of your face, which woke you up instantly. Once it finally ended, you quickly cleaned up your stuff before going back to the cleaning closet so you can finish the rest of the rooms. You are not sure what time it was. You only knew it was late at night as you was finishing up the rooms when the sound of the front door opening echoed throughout the quiet halls. You heard a woman sobbing shortly after, and like the noisy person you was hid in a corner trying to see what was going on. Jungkook, stop doing this. What's going on? You can't just come home beat up and expect me to ignore it. Mrs. John Weiss cries in pain as she holds onto her son's arm. Her voice was shaky. You could tell she was trying her best to hold back tears to sound strong enough in front of her son. You couldn't really see in the dark too well, but you could make out the dark spots where there was blood on his face. Her body was so tiny compared to his tall figures as she tried to stop him from walking away. Mom, drop it. I'm alive, alright? He grumbles, looking down at his mother. You felt bad for her. You couldn't imagine what it would feel like seeing your child like that, seeing them shut themselves away from everyone and not knowing why. You know, you can trust me with anything, Jungkook. I'll always be here for you. Just please don't make me worry like this. She cried slowly wiping the blood off of his face with a towel. Yeah, I know, is all he said as he let his mother clean the blood, but his voice sounded emotionless, empty, and cold. What are you doing? You nearly have a heart attack at the sudden voice behind you. You turn around, feeling your breath hitched as Jungkook stood in front of you, his hands in his pocket as he looks down at you confused. What? Nothing. You stumble out, trying to avoid eye contact with him so he wouldn't notice your lie. Although it was bad enough, you are sure he could already tell. Jungwoo looked up behind you, his eyes on Jungkook and his mother. As soon as he saw Jungkook, his jaw clenched, his gaze burning with anger as he looked at his brother. Do you want to go on a walk with me? Jungwoo suddenly asked, still looking at his brother. You looked up, shocked at the sudden words that left his mouth. Walk now? You stutter out, looking up at him confused. It was nearly 1 in the morning. Yes, now. If not, you can continue stalking my family, Jungwook said jokingly as he shrugs, turning around as he walks down the hall. Why would I do that? You said nervously, rushing up to Jungwoo as you start walking beside his tall figure. He looks down at you, a small laugh leaving his mouth. You only look up at him, confused on what was so funny. I'm surprised you didn't ignore me again, Mayan, he said, opening the back door. The cool air kisses your skin as you both walk outside, revealing the large garden in the backyard. I just don't want to get fired for talking to you. Mrs. Carmen told me they usually don't hire girls my age because of scandals, and I was scared she would misunderstand. You said quietly. Your eyes couldn't stay in one spot as they moved all around the garden, trying to take in the entire view. You took in the sound of the cricket chirping, the wind blowing on the trees, the smell of the fresh air around you. It felt like all your problems had just gone away. You felt calm. Seems like Jungkook got a reputation with the workers here too. Jungwoo laughed. It wasn't a regular happy laugh, it was a laugh which sounded annoyed. Oh, him? You only said you hadn't been surprised that it was all Jungkook's doing, that they had to be careful with hiring young ladies. At least you knew you wouldn't be his next target, maybe not in the best way since he wanted to kill you literally. You wanted to ask Jungwoo why he would always looked so mad at his brother, what happened between them, but you figured that was too personal of a question to ask, especially as just a maid. In the cafeteria, when you spilled your food on Jungkook, he didn't say anything to you, right? Jungwoo asked you as you both continue walking down the path cutting through the garden. His eyes were trained on you as you tried to figure out some way to answer that question. No, he just told me to watch where I'm going. You said, deciding not to mention anything else that happened between you and Jungkook. Jungwoo seemed like he was in thought for a moment, his eyebrows scrunched together as he looked ahead of him while you both were walking. I have a question for you. You suddenly blurt out, watching him carefully just in case you shouldn't have said that. He looks down at you shocked, a smile playing on his face. Of course, go ahead. He laughs. His eyes almost seemed even more brown under the light up garden. Why do you talk to me? I'm not interesting. Everyone else at the school hates me, and I'm just a maid, nothing special. You said, looking down at your feet. Your fingers had unconsciously tangled together again, nervously, as you waited on him to answer. When he doesn't speak, you look up only to see his bright eyes already looking down at you, a glint of amusement in them. What? You asked, confused at why he was looking at you. I'm just shocked, that's all. He shrugs as you purse your lips together, only more confused at his response. What do you mean? You ask, feeling a gush of wind suddenly blow through your hair. You could feel the goosebumps on your arms rise at the cold chills. I barely even know you, yet I already know you are the nicest person I have ever met. You are shy but easy to talk to, and of course, you are beautiful. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't want to talk to you, why anyone wouldn't. He said, and the entire time you watch him talking, you could feel your heart warm. No one's ever said anything that nice to you. You think your brain was confused on what to say, being so used to nasty words that you couldn't think of a way to react. Thanks. It's all your brain manages to come up with. A laugh leaves Jungkook's mouth at your response, and you could already feel the embarrassment rush to your cheek as they turned red. Let's head back. You look like you're freezing, he suddenly said, and you looked down. Look down at yourself, only now noticing your arms that were tightly wrapped around your cold body. You nod your head, a small smile on your face as you both turn back around towards the house. I have been meaning to ask you about that bruise on your eye. What happened? He asked as you both nearly reach the door and you rack up on any sort of lie in your head that seems somewhat believable. Oh, I fell down the stairs pretty bad and bruised my eye. You lied, surprised to see he believed it. Ouch, that must have hurt like a bitch, he said, wincing as he looks more closely at the bruise. It definitely didn't look as bad now compared to couple days ago. Both of your heads suddenly snap towards the kitchen when the sound of glass breaking reaches your ears. You look up at Jungwoo, but he already started walking towards the kitchen. You follow him behind after closing the back door. A quiet gasp leaving your mouth when Jungkook comes into view. He was drunk, really drunk. His hair was messy. His eyes didn't seem as cold as they would always been. He looked tired yet angry at the same time. It's like he was trying to fight some horrifying war with himself. Jungkook watched Jungkook from the entrance of the kitchen, his fist clenched at his side. Let's go. Jungkook mumbles, turning around and walking back down the hallway. You look at Jungkook one more time, your head tilted to the side when he makes eye contact with you. The blood from his face was now only covered with bruises and cuts from what you figured was a fight. He looks away from you, downing the rest of the drink in his hand, and you turn around walking fast to catch up with Jungwoo. Aren't you going to help him? You ask Jungwoo when you finally catch up to his long strides, already out of breath. You don't think you should have said that. It only made Jungwoo more tense. He doesn't want my help, he said. You could hear the pain through his voice, and you furrow your brows together as you both silently walk towards your door. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, Mayan. Jungwoo said, giving you a small smile before leaving. You sigh, looking towards where the kitchen had been. You shake your head at your thoughts, walking into your room after remembering how he had threatened you yesterday.